time.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of Yomo. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. We are on Reflection 232 today, and we have another great book. This is actually a part one of five, am I correct?
Yeah, this is a 5-parter. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a part one of five reflections on one of my and Chris's favorite author, Nicholas Taleb.
Yeah. So this is a book 3 or 4, I can't remember, of his Incerto series, Antifragile, Things That Gain from Disorder. For some reason, our website is down to pull up the actual reflection.
Maybe that proves you're not an idiot.
That is true. There you go. So the title, what is you describe Antifragile? You say you tell me what it's about.
So to me, like there are certain things in our universe that has to be in balance. So you have things that are fragile, and there's things that are anti-fragile. So similarly, you have things that are like matter and versus antimatter. And he's not talking about antimatter on this in this thing, but I'm just saying in general, there's always the opposite way. There's composer and there are decomposer. So in the anti-fragile, so everything we see in the world that we normally understand is fragile. Like when you break a glass, it shatters because it's fragile. And the things that thrive in a anti-fragile environment, there are things like that. For example, a hydra is an anti-fragile, meaning if you chop up one head, two will sprout. Chop up another head, two more will sprout. So that is in the mid of chaos, these things grow and thrive on it. And so that is what he calls anti-fragile.
He calls it, just from the book description, it's beyond robust, right? It benefits from uncertainty and stressors. The example they give in the description is human bones getting stronger when they're subjected to stress and tension. Similar, exactly what you just said. It's fragility, and then the opposite. If there's a spectrum of the fragility spectrum, you have anti-fragile on this end, and is the opposite of fragile. So we'll discuss way more about what anti-fragile is through the 5-part reflection on this one as we go through it. But today's reflection is soul in the game.
Isn't there another Incerto?
Yeah, but I hadn't read Skin in the Game, because Skin in the Game actually came after Anti-Fragile. So I was reading this one, and I had not read Skin in the Game. I didn't even know it existed. This was a message that he put into this book in a certain section of it that I was like, oh, soul in the game. That's an interesting idea, and he went deeper into soul in the game and anti-fragile. And then he wrote a whole book about it in Skin in the Game, right? Where soul in the game was one portion of Skin in the Game. So this is when I actually learned about soul in the game, was when I was reading anti-fragile. So I didn't write a reflection in Skin in the Game for soul in the game. It's kind of funny how it worked out. Does that make sense?
So in the game.
I'll tell you when I get there, because I just finished that this week. I just wrote it this week, actually. I just wrote it on Tuesday. So I'm happy to. Can't wait to share it with you.
You're going to do a multi-part reflection on Skin in the Game as well, or just one?
No, just I told you, after I finished it on Monday, it felt like Skin in the Game was like, because that's the 5th part of his Incerto series or whatever. It felt like it was just a more detailed recap of the other 3 books, where he would just build on top of all 3 of them. It was almost like a recap. There wasn't much new information that was presented in Skin in the Game, in my opinion. It felt more like him just wrapping it all up, like a swan song. Hey, this is my final, I'm going to drop the mic in this realm, and this is like my final piece of work that I'm going to write on it, and summarizing it all is really what it felt like to me, which is why I didn't actually it's a good time to start the reflection. So I loved this book. Like, it was great. That's why I wrote a 5-part reflection on it. I don't know what it is about his writing, the way that he presents stuff, his exploration of a topic that he truly loves. It's something about it, right? It just appeals to me. And I don't know why, but I'm going to try to figure it out in this particular reflection, actually. That's why I wrote about soul in the game. I didn't love it as much, just to be fair, as Black Swan. Black Swan is still my favorite by far. I feel like he kind of had some civil discourse in Black Swan, even though he took some swipes at people. But and I feel like in Anti-Fragile, he kind of started to take the gloves off a little bit, and he was just like going at people.
And then
and then in Skin in the Game, he just went all in. Like, he was just like, I felt like Skin in the Game was more of like an attack on everybody, just personal attack on people. So from an idea perspective, Black Swan and Anti-Fragile, the 2 best ideas that were presented during this whole entire series with him, in my opinion. Black Swan I enjoyed it more because I felt like he was still kind. Like he's now turned into almost a philosopher now in a lot of ways, in my opinion. That's what I saw as the progression went through these books. But either way, I still loved it. It was still a great book. One of the things that he had talked about in Antifragile is the idea of soul in the game. And it made me start to think, like, why do I really like this guy so much? You could hate him. He's got really strong opinions. You could read anything that guy writes, the way that he carries on in his life, and go, man, that guy sucks. But the one thing you will never say about Nassim Taleb, the dude walks the walk. He lives what he talks about. He has inserted himself. He has a beautiful question that he went and explored around uncertainty and randomness in this world. Smack dab plopped himself in the middle of that with the work that he did, the life that the stuff that he talks about, how he goes about his day, how he structured everything. He tinkered, he explored, he did a lot of stuff, he wrote a lot of stuff, and then he presented his findings to people through this Incerto series. So the one thing that anybody could not challenge Nassim Taleb is that he believes, and he's got his soul in the damn game, right? And I remember in this particular book, when he said, skin in the game really is like table stakes. You have to have skin in the game if you're going to trust anybody in this world. If somebody does not have skin in the game, just disregard them completely. If they're, some, economists doing shit about the macro economy, where they're just guessing about stuff in the future and they have no, harm that can come to them at all, run far away, right? Like now, like an entrepreneur, that is, started a business and went out on the line and put his own money up at risk, like at least that's some skin in the game, right? So I at least respect that person and I will give them the time of day to hear about their story and what they did. But soul in the game is a whole different animal, in my opinion. Like when you find somebody that has soul in the game, you absolutely should listen all day, every day, because that person has spent a lifetime exploring, or however long it is at that point in time, exploring their beautiful question. They are in it. This is their life. And while that can be bad and good, my grandmother comes to mind with somebody that has her soul in the game. She really believes in the Catholic faith, right? She really believes in the church. She really believes in everything that it stands for and how it goes about life. Anytime that I talk to her, if you ever go watch the Grandma Diaries videos that I've been recording and putting on YouTube, if she allows me to share them with the broader public, she talks about this stuff constantly, and she really believes in this stuff, and that's one of the reasons why I love my grandmother. Like I wrote about her in my book. She's somebody that lives a value-driven life and knows exactly what she wants, and she's invested her time and energy and efforts and all of her life into that world, right? Same thing with Nicholas Taleb, right? These are people that have truly souls in the game, and those are the people that everybody should be looking for in their life. And if you find them, just sit back and listen, because they will unload on you a just insane amount of knowledge, love, and all this stuff will just come flowing out of them, right? This whole entire concept of soul in the game for me made me think about my own life, and this journey that you and I have been on a lot together is a journey that I started with my soul in the game. I didn't have my soul in the game in anything before. As a matter of fact, I used to joke because I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll just work hard and do stuff. And yeah, I mean, I want to be good at things, but I don't really care that much about being great at my job or something like that, or being super into religion. And that all changed for me with Amelia. Like my soul is in the game of living for two with her. My soul is in everything that we're doing to try to find a way to live our values and bring those things to life. For me, it's to do that with my daughter. But then side effect is to see if we can help other people to find ways to live their values and bring them to life, to produce meaningful work and meaningful relationships and do their best to live a balanced existence. Have a fulfilling life. We have done so much tinkering and exploration and all these conversations and topics. We're on our way. Our soul is in this game right now. And I know it for a fact. You could tell me I'm wrong. I don't really give a shit, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to figure out this particular problem. This is my beautiful question. This is your beautiful question at this point in time. I feel like as we keep going down this road, people should take notice of what we're doing, because whether you agree with us or disagree with us, our soul is in the game, and we're definitely going to figure out if this beautiful question, if we can figure out this answer to this stuff going forward. As I think about my own funeral or something like that someday, I hope to God that people say to me, and we've talked about this is from Man's Search for Meaning, I hope to God that people come to my funeral someday and say, Chris had his whole soul in the game of living for two with his daughter. He lived up to his promise for her, and he helped as many people along the way as he could. And if I can hear that, that means I'll have honored my promise to Amelia, and that means that I will live a damn fine fucking life. And I will be incredibly proud to say that, or to have other people feel that way at my own funeral someday. So that's the power of soul in the game, in my opinion. And I feel like Nicholas Taleb would say the same thing. If people come to his funeral and was like, that guy, that guy really cared about randomness and really helped a lot of people to see different, different perspective in this world. I'm sure he'd be a really, really happy person, in whatever world that he's in at that point in time. So love to pause there. Love to get your thoughts. Like, the question that I put at the end of this is your soul in the game? Is the soul in the game that you play? So yeah, love to hear what you think.
I'm sorry. I don't know if you agree or disagree, but for me,
Sure.
I think for most of what Taleb has written, a lot of these come from ancient wisdom. Right, so he's talking about the silver rule, right? We know about the golden rule. We know about the platinum rule through your book and through the book that
Sheryl Sandberg. Yeah.
Sandberg, right?
Option B.
Yeah, the platinum rule, right? But everybody should know about the silver rule. And so similarly, the skin game is it's an ancient wisdom.
Right.
You think about in the past, like when a king goes into battle, the people will follow him.
That's my reflection for anti-fragile or for skin in the game was the silver rule. So just so you know, you're ruining it. But yeah, all right, no, go ahead, keep going. Sorry.
I'm pretty good at doing that, but I don't care. But like I'm saying is, like your soul in the game is what people expect you, right? Because if you think about it, if you have a certain nature, like your nature is to be this kind of human being, like if I ask you, Chris, at the end of your life, at your funeral, what would you want people to say to you? What kind of man Chris is? Is Chris very sly, slick, fast talking dude that can sell anything? Or is Chris this guy, that kind of guy, whatever? So essentially, when you have a soda game, it's essentially going all in on a bet. You basically say, hey, let's say you're at a poker table and you say, well, I'm all in. That's what soda game means. It's like you put everything in to whatever that you betting on it, and that is an all or nothing. It's an all in. And so when somebody have that kind of conviction, what do you think they will do to the thing they focus on?
They're either going to figure it out or they're not.
They
are
going to be relentless because it's everything they have. But that's the thing is once you have the ability to go all in, put a soda game, then the people that is going to see you is going to say, well, that guy is true to what he believes. And so the only, beside anything else, you can say one thing for sure is that guy believes in his principle. He stands on the principle. He's not this floating guy that say, like we talk to a politician, should you vote? Should you support this, support that? It will give you some kind of like an in-between answers. I stand on this principle and that's what I do. And I don't really even want to consider the other side when I'm all in. So that's what I do. And so when you look at that kind of a person, if you don't have a soul in the game in your life is not worth living, because at the end of the day, there are certain things that you want to be known as. You don't want to be known as, hey, this guy's a sissy. I don't want to be known as this indecisive person. For me, I just don't know why. And another example, we say this true is basically a liar. For whatever reason, that doesn't jive with me at all. I just don't, it should not affect me at all, but it does. This is because my nature of wanting to be truthful and honest and have integrity. So for me, I want to be known as an honest man. Whether that has any value to anyone, it doesn't matter. But because of that, my soul is in the game in terms of building this principle of mine, right? That means for you, say, hey, what kind of man do you want to be? Do you want to be a righteous man? You want to be a thief? You want to be a sly? You want to be, the bigot? You want to be whatever you want, right? What kind of person you want to be? Because if you don't take a stand, right, you cannot be in those person that you want to be. At the end of the day, you say, well, I didn't go all in. Just like for one time in your life, you bet on a stock or bet on a horse, and that horse wins big. Then you say, shit, I should have bet everything. I should have, bet on it. Because, you say, hey, this is the right thing. And then you regret it because, hey, I didn't go all in. And that's what you're going to feel like at the end of your day, at the end of life. You say, well, I didn't go all in into the things I believe in. And so to me, if you don't have soul in the game of life, you don't have much of a life.
I couldn't agree more. Honestly, I actually think about, past businesses that I've started, and if you honestly ask me, you said, Chris, be honest, like was your soul in the game of either of the two businesses that the two legitimate businesses, that gained some traction in my life, like I've done on the side was my soul in the game. My soul wasn't in the game. I had a little bit of skin in the game, but I actually tried to do my best to keep as little amount of skin in the game and still keep my kind of 1 foot somewhat skin in the game over here and somewhat skin in the game over there. I was spreading my skin around.
I mean,
A
you
little
probably keep
bit.
an eye on it, but that's it.
Right.
If you make like $100,000 a year and you put in like $1,000, that's not skin in the game. Skin in the game is when you put in like, hey, I'm putting 50 to 75% of my earnings into this startup.
Then,
that's skin in the game. Stone in the game is when you bet everything. Everything, right. Like, I mean, basically, like if you lose, you lose. Like right. That's all. It's an all or nothing. That is the soul in the game. Can you point to me which entrepreneur has soul in the game? That's a guy you want to partner up, because for him to quit, it's almost impossible. It's like the last resort. So that is the ancient wisdom. Is that when you go to battle with a king that is willing to be in the front, right? That's the guy you want to follow, or that's the guy you want to fight with. You don't want to fight with the guy that has control in his castle and say, "Hey, go fight these guys for me." He had nothing in the game, right?
Yeah. I mean,
in a battle, the king is essentially the commander of the army, and he's in the midst of the trench. You look at like the Emperor of Rome, Julius Caesar, right? You're talking about even George Washington, right? These guys actually in the lead in the troops fighting. They're not like somebody sitting in an office and say, go do this, go do that. So this is why I'm saying is this ancient wisdom. It happens like go as far back as we have known about writings in history. We know about the civil war. We know about the soul in the game. You have to put a soul in the game. And at the same time, go and translate that to today's and modern day, is if you don't have soul in the game, you say, well, if I did believe in this, right, then why didn't I put everything in? Why didn't I go 100% of my effort into it versus not? And then if I did not, if I go and I start this business and my soul wasn't in the game, so why did I waste time doing this thing versus there's the other thing that fits more, better for me and be able to focus my time with it than to kind of be subtracted from the time from, let's say, a year that, I didn't get to do the other stuff. At the end of the day, you say, well, my limited life, the time on earth is limited, and I wasted this amount of money, this amount of time to something else that I don't really like or I really hate. And then you regret having so little time to do the things you like. And so to me, at the end of the day, if you don't have, the more you waste, the more you regret. That's why having the understanding of the soul in the game and figure out what it is that drives you, and doing that will actually reduce much of those regrets.
It reminds me, honestly, of not only, like, I think you're spot on with everything you're saying, but it also comes across to other people that is engaging in your life and perceiving your life from the outside. And it makes me think specifically around a lot of the books, some of my most memorable books and authors that I've gone through in this journey, and the stories that they've told, the ones that just I can't get out of my head oftentimes are ones where it's pure skin in the game, where it's John Krakauer on Into the Thin Air on the Mount Everest, like, disaster. That book will haunt you. Or you think of Christopher McDougall and Running with Sherman and Born to Run, like he lived that stuff. He loves the idea of endurance for human beings and figuring out how to leverage running in order to live a fulfilling, meaningful life and to connect with other people. When you hear these guys' stories and you hear the way that they explore these topics, it just, it just pulls you in. Or, even a worst case scenario, I love books. And this discussion has reminded me now of why I love so many of these books where journalists go into a world that they don't know and they get a little bit of skin in the game and then they figure out if they really like it or they don't like it. Like that exploration with their skin in the game of, Harahan Finn when he did the ultramarathon book, or Maria Konnikova with The Biggest Bluff or Cork Dork, that book. But those ones where journalists dive into a different world where they don't know anything and put a little skin in the game and the story that comes out of that, they're just captivated. And I'm like, I'll listen to you because you put some skin in the game. But the people that have their soul in the game, the Christopher McDougals, the Bill Brysons, the Nassim Talebs, those are the dudes that I cherish their.
It's mesmerizing. When you have somebody who say, I put everything, I go all into this.
Yeah.
It's mesmerizing because it's just captivating. Because the thing is, whatever the I guess the gene that we have is give us ability to relate to him, and the magnitude of the seriousness of the game gets you like really wants to watch very closely. You look at Nassim Taleb, right? He stands on his principle, right? People are attacking him
Daniel
from all angles,
game.
but he's gonna stand on it. Is it like buy my book? You like it? You don't like it? Don't buy it. I can tell you now. Hey, don't waste your money if you don't believe in what I'm saying. So that's the thing is, he is not out there to be passed back and forth. He's saying, I'm standing on my principle, and I put everything into it, my whole entire life reputation in it, right? And you look at his books, all his books throughout, his tone is exactly the same, and it may even get more, like you said,
aggressive. It gets aggressive.
Yeah, but like even in the beginning, still aggressive because but I say
it was like light punches, it was little jabs, here and there, but then
he didn't specifically spell it out. He didn't call people any names except for, I think in the Black Swan he did call out some people's name, but it's more of those. The frequency has increased in the later books.
I actually had to Google after I read Skin in the Game. I was like, what is up with Steven Pinker and Nassim Taleb's? Like, what is their beef about? Like, because I was like, Jesus Christ, he like hates Steven Pinker. He mentioned him like 50 times in this book. And I was like, I'm just cracking me up at the end of it. I was like, man, those two ever saw each other on a street corner, I'd be like, I don't know what it would be like to have two philosophers fighting each other, but it'd be interesting.
I mean, philosophers, they don't actually do any physical damages. They have their weapon, which is the ability to reason.
But I'll tell you this, no joke. Like, I read Steven Pinker's Enlightenment Now book. I don't remember a fucking thing from it. It was
because
boring.
It's all fluff.
It's all fluff.
Because there's no skin in the game. Because you're not mesmerized by what they're doing. If you go to, you play poker, right? You play poker. You go to the table. When somebody goes all in, your eyes are like glued to that thing. Okay, what's the next card gonna be? What's the next card gonna be? The thing is, it's any normal game. But when somebody has everything in, like they say, I'm all in. This is the suspense, the dramatic of the conclusion. Everybody's tuned in and their eyes are glued. We have that gene that wants us to be able to be like glued to this stake, like somebody's taking a big risk. And it hides our focus, our attention to that. Right?
We don't really care unless we have something to lose,
Exactly. But that's the thing is, when you have Taleb, and he does that, he say, well, this is my reputation, this is my life, this is my life work, and whatever I do, this is it. So I'm not this person where, one day I'm on this side, next day I'm on the other side. So when you read Taleb, right, either you like him or you hate him. You don't go in between. But either you agree or you don't disagree. I mean, if you agree, you say, hey,
the one thing you can never say is he's phony.
He's not phony. He said the way he thinks. And he said, like, this is why I think, and this is all the things that I've written.
Right. Like my grandmother that I was talking about earlier. You can say that she's
the thing is, it's not about what they say,
right?
It's about how they say it. It's how are they doing those things, right?
Right.
So you respect your grandmother, right? Because of the way she behaves towards Catholic, right? There's a bunch of thousands, millions of Catholics out there. Why aren't you mesmerized by all those Catholic people living? But
because they're the
exactly.
2-time-a-year Catholics that pop in during Christmas and they and they're like,
the captivation comes from the person, not come from the subject.
No,
right?
not at all.
It's just like you and me, like, hey, when you and I get together, it doesn't matter what kind of business we do.
No,
it matters that you and I do business together. It's not matter of what kind of business we generate, what kind of startup, what kind of ideas we have. That is not important. Just like in this, right? If you have soul in the game, and when you have the soul in the game, you're going all in. This is what's captivating. So same thing with what we call culture, right? Culture is going to give you the ability, the engine to build product. It's not the idea of the product. It's not the idea of the business. It's not any of those things. It's the culture. This is why company comes along and say, well, we need culture. We need soul in the game. We have to have these things before we say, well, I am captivating you enough to say, well, what kind of business idea do you have? But if I'm not captivating,
I have 5 million ideas. That's the point. Is like Taleb has 5 million ideas that he wants to go explore about randomness, and he just keeps doing it for what you're just describing with our culture, that we have soul in the game and the culture that we are building. From there, we can have any fucking idea that we want to go explore, like, but it's always with that central neurological, like, neuron path, where it's like, I'm in, like, I mean, that I found our Grand Canyon, we're off, like, this is where we'll be, in the Clubany work-life balance, complex for the next, I know you hate those words, but you get my point. I'm with you 100%. It doesn't matter what we do. It matters why we do it. And it only matters why you do it. I'm such a firm believer at this point in time, the power of the why to drive purpose, and then it drives values, and then it drives your actions. And I don't ever think you should walk up to somebody and be like, what's your why? Like, fuck you. Like, like, I'm not gonna, do
well,
you really want to know? Like,
not directly, but I think we
no, I'm saying there's people that say,
we need to kind of say, well, in a subtle way. The thing is, if I come to you, Chris, right? Hey, you and I get together. Well, at the bottom, beneath everything, it's about, why am I doing it?
No, hang on, let me clarify. I was saying in the pop culture world now, where people are like, I have a very specific thing in mind that I was referencing, actually. My wife rides Peloton all the time, and we have a Peloton in our basement, and I do it every once in a while. To one of the instructors on these live videos, she just yells the whole entire time, I ran 25 marathons. What's your why? Get out there. What's your why? And I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Like, lady, leave me alone. I'm just trying to pedal on a bike. Like, stop screaming at me. Like, I don't need you.
This is exactly because you are not agreeing with her, because she has no skin. Because
she does. She's like, I ran 25 marathons. I was pregnant one time.
What happened? No,
I'm like, that's good for you.
It means nothing, because the thing is, when you do something for the spirit of the doing versus just the motion of doing, that's a difference, right?
No, I agree.
You did it because there's an intent, versus you did it because it's just emotion. Hey, people say, hey, you ask your why. Oh, what's your why? What's your why? So it's not about asking the why. It's about understanding the why.
Why I jumped on the Peloton in the first place. It was to enjoy time with my daughter, not to have some lady scream at me, what's your why? I'm like, leave me alone.
Well, people have skin in the game, and people who don't. And people who don't are just basically using like buzzwords and tools or whatever that is quote unquote like scientifically proven to do blah blah blah. And they say, what's your why? Think about the happy time, even though they have no idea the meaning behind it. Just like if I keep telling you Beaver must damn, right? And somebody hears us say Beaver must damn, and people say Beaver must damn, Beaver must damn. They have no idea why we're saying it, but they repeat it because they think they know, but they only understand the surface of it. They don't understand the deep meaning of what we mean by Beaver must damn. Same thing with these people who say, eat the frog. They don't even know what the fuck is eating a frog means, right? I mean, like I said,
know the concept of it.
No, they think they know.
Right, fair. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like,
the thing is, I'm the kind of guy like Taleb. I don't fucking care, right? I'm gonna say what I want to say. You can like it if you want, and you can dislike it if you want. I don't care, and I'm gonna say it straight. I ain't gonna be that person and say, I'm on this fence today and I'm on the fence another day. I'm gonna tell you straight. Most people think they know. Like me, as a young person, myself included, I think I knew something. That's why I can pretty confidently tell you that, in my younger years, I know shit. Right?
Well,
and
I still
know
don't know
shit
anything,
now.
Yeah. You know less now. It's the truth. I mean, you know far less now than you knew when you were younger.
I at least know that I know shit when I was younger, and other people know shit as well. At least I know some. I can't say for everybody, but I say majority of people in the same profile as me would know shit, and so they think they know, and that is the problem. I'm just saying that to say, hey, if you know shit, right, meaning you know shit, then you can't know shit. Meaning, if you know, then you can't learn anything.
Right.
Because like I told you, my struggle with, if I were to have a time machine, go back and educate my 20-year-old self, I cannot do it because this guy knows too much. Oh, he thinks he knows too much. That's the problem, because he can't learn anything. It's just like the cup is full. He can't pour anything into it. And so that's the thing is, I want to make it clear that we think we know. So at least have this doubt and say, hey, maybe we don't know 100% of it. So maybe give it at least some crack or some light to be shining into the cracks. And maybe what we see isn't all of the things that it existed. It's there. So something is being masked or covered or, invisible, whatever. At least have a crack in it. Has a seed of doubt in what we know. Right. And to me, like I say, I say I'm very good at what I do in terms of programming. And the reason why I'm good at what I do is because I don't know shit. So when something doesn't work, I say, well, this probably doesn't work no more. I'm going to try something else. I'm not going to bang my head against that wall and say, hey, this makes perfect sense. Why doesn't it work? And all of the developers that I worked with, this is the exact same default behavior they do. They spend days, weeks, months on a problem they cannot solve, even though they keep looking at it. It's logically, it should work, but it doesn't work, right? To me, come in there and say, well, in the real world, I have no idea why it doesn't work. Even though it's supposed to work, it doesn't work. Therefore, I'm not using it. So this is what I do is I go into projects and I do remedial. Many developers has gone through that project and could not solve it. I come in and solve it for them like in a flick of a finger, because the thing is, I didn't solve the problem. I just threw away the issue and just put it in something new.
A buddy of mine texted me on Monday and he was like, hey, we're in between leagues right now. The summer league doesn't start up for another month or so. And he texted me and he was like, hey, it's an awesome day. You want to go play on Wednesday? And I was like, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Let's go. So we were just playing a fun match, and he's a good tennis player. He's solid. He's the same level as me. For all intents and purposes, we should be incredibly competitive. Every time we play, I kill him. Just kill him. I beat him today like 6-1. I think it was like 6-2 or 6-3 or something like that. But those are not competitive matches. But I know that he's a high caliber player. I tell him, do this. He just does the same thing over and over against me. That's like exactly what I want him to do. I don't have to do anything other than just let my elephant be my elephant against him. It's like I don't have to do anything. In every changeover in every game, like I've been, he usually only plays doubles. He's a really good doubles player. He's trying to get better at singles, and I usually only play singles. Like, I don't love doubles. Like, I don't really give a shit about getting into the strategy and thought process. But whenever I play this guy in doubles, like, he's a problem to play. Like, because he knows what he wants to do, and he's very creative, and he's thinking about strategy. He's not thinking about execution. But whenever we play singles, I can see him over there, just gears turning, like, frustrated as hell, like trying to figure out, like, and then every changeover, he's like, Chris, I cannot fucking figure out how to play you. Like, I'm like, his name's David. I'm like, David, I'll tell you how to play me. Do this exact shot. Like, do this. And he'll try to do it one time and it'll work. And then I'm across we're just friends and we're just playing a fun match. And I'm like, do that again. Just keep doing that. And then he just cannot figure it out. Like, and then he reverts back to something else. And then, like, no joke, at the end of this match, like, we played like a quick, just like fun points. And we just, feed the ball in and we'd try to, play out a point that way. And when he was just relaxed, he was hitting the exact shot that he needs to hit. For him to beat me, he hits a lot of heavy spin, and he hits it kind of like a looping shot. He doesn't hit really like driving hard, fast shots. His natural comfort zone is hitting loopy spin shots that aren't like moon balls or something, but they're like heavy spin, loopy shots. I like to crowd the baseline and hit and drive balls with power and more flat shots dictated the point. When we play in a match, he takes off so much spin off of his ball that it bounces right into my wheelhouse. I don't ever have to leave the baseline, right out, crowd up the baseline, and I can just run him side to side all day long until I hit a winner. But when we're playing for fun points, he starts, letting his little elephant take over, and the fucking ball, he's hitting these great loopy, deeper shots that just pushing me back almost to the fucking fence. And then he ends up beating me in these fun practice games. And he's like, why can I not play like this against you in a game? And I'm like, David, you got to do something different. Like, you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. Just like you were saying, solve the problem. You have similar skill levels as me, but what you do is not working against me. You have to change, And then the second thing that you made me think about was my employees, for sales professionals and stuff like that. I've seen so many salespeople over my years. I've worked with thousands of different sales professionals in my career, my time at Angie's List and Salesforce and, now with OSF and HC1 in between. I've seen all different kinds of ways that people sell and don't sell. The ones that I find the most funny and hilarious are the ones that follow the exact instructions of management. Do this, do this, do this, and you'll have success. Like, there's some manual for sales excellence or whatever. And it's comical because I know it's going to happen every single time. They'll come to their managers and they'll be like, I'm doing exactly what you said to do, and I'm not having success. And they're like, do it harder. And they're like, okay. So then they do it again, and then they come back and they're like, I'm still not having success. I'm working my ass off. I am just pounding harder and harder and harder against that wall, and I'm not breaking through. And then they go, the shitty leaders go, well, this
it's not hard enough.
Like, yeah, it's not hard enough. And the cycle just goes over and over and over again of watching people just run.
Maybe run at it faster. This is the kind of teaching people teach you. It's like you gotta go and hit it. Give it all you got.
Just hit it harder,
speed,
David.
With power, harder, whatever, and do more times. For years, they could not figure out how to fix the problem because they believe that they can go through the wall. For me, it's the wall. I can just take the wall and toss it and put a new screen in.
That's solve the problem, right? Like it solved the problem.
You look at it. What did you need to do? Oh, I need to go to the other side. You didn't ask me to go through the wall. You say, well, my goal is to go to the other side. So if the wall's here, I can just move it.
I can take some equipment and break it down, or I could run over the wall. I could fly over the wall. I could tunnel under the wall.
But the thing is, it gets you to where you're supposed to be, which is my goal is to get to the other side.
Right.
Whatever the goal is. And so when you look at that perspective, right, and say, well, I don't know how to solve this problem. If it doesn't work, well, it doesn't have to be logically, because the thing is, you don't live in a kind environment. Whatever, 2 + 2 doesn't equal to 4. 1 + 1 is equal to 3. So the thing is, in a real world, things don't have to make sense. I mean, you can't sit there and try to make sense of it. It will take you your whole life to even figure out why it's supposed to work, but it didn't work. Right, and so you cannot solve.
The soul in the game helps you to find a way to go around the wall.
Because you cannot just head against the wall because there's no other option. You cannot say, well, this option is my only option. I'll survive even though I will fail. Failure is not an option because you went all in. You have to figure out how to get to your goal. The wall isn't what your focus should be.
And soul in the game is anti-fragile because it's robust. It's beyond robust, right?
Exactly, because when you have the soul in the game, you approach your target and it's a wall. Right. You can climb over it. You can go around it. You can remove the wall altogether, right? You can just use equipment to smash the wall or whatever. It creates these possible solutions.
Right.
That you say, well, when I'm looking at it, these are the possible solutions. I don't have to say, hey, this is only one path and there's only one path for me. I have to go through the wall. And if you have the skin in the game, your wall becomes a smaller problem in the grand scheme of your whole all-in bet. Because, hey, I can't get through the wall.
Is this
right? So that means that whatever that problem, it seems small comparison to the, hey, my game ends here. Think about it. So that's why it allows you to step back a little bit and say, well, is there anything I can do with that? That's why it gives you the ability to think more and more solutions, possible potential solution will come.
Well, you don't have an option to not think when you have the soul in the game. Like you're gonna,
exactly.
even if it takes,
and that's why it's called antifragile because it forces you to multiply that multitude of possible solutions.
It reminds me of Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom, right? Like the dude did some crazy things while he was in jail in terms of like, the things that he was able to get by and not get by about, but he didn't know what he was doing it for. But like, you just kept pushing through because his soul was in that game. Like his soul was all in that game, broke through walls and found new stuff. And then all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, you spent 25 years in jail and did all this stuff. Like, how did you do that? And like, for him, he didn't even think about it. It was just like, I have one path forward that I have to do this. I don't care if I have to tunnel under this wall and every night take out one pebble and that's all I can do to get underneath it. Because people then see, eventually you get to the other side and they're like, holy shit, it took you 25 years to dig under that wall.
When you think about it, say it's my whole entire life.
Right.
It seems small compared to your whole life. So that's why you have an ability to endure. Because from the perspective of the 25 years to me, compares small compared to my whole life. Because if I can't move one pebble at a time for 25 years, my life ends. My life, right, it's much bigger. It's much more important than 25 years of doing the same shit over. I mean, for you, there is a reason to endure. And to endure with that, because when you're talking about the hard thing about hunting, right? People say, "Oh, this is the worst thing in my life." Well, compared to you, it's a piece of shit, right? It's nothing compared to what you've gone through. So that when you put your soul in the game, that gives you that perspective.
Exactly. I mean, there's not
But if somebody said, if you look at Nelson Mandela and say, well, the thing is, let's pretend that you are in his shoe, and you say, well, I'm going to jail for a year so I can, get this or whatever. I'm sure we can't do it even for a year. It's long enough. If we don't understand why we do it.
Not for why he was there. Like if you put me in jail for why, for Amelia, and you said, hey, this is, you just got to, this is it. You get to spend time with your daughter in here, but like you got to be in jail for the rest of your life. I can figure that out. Like if you put me in jail though for South African, abolishing apartheid, like I would be like, not that I don't care, but I don't have any skin in the game. It's not my fight.
It's not your core value. It's not your fight. Right. So for somebody to put you in jail for even a month, it seems unfair. Imagine a month versus 25 years, and for him, it's like it's worth it. If whatever you do, even if they put you in jail for 25 years, it's still worth it because whatever you did, right, is what you wanted.
If I had to go live the 39 days of her life over every single, every 39 days like Groundhog Day, and we had to go do that over and over again for the rest of my life,
I would get to have her with you.
Right. I'm not going to say it's not worth living. It's not.
I can pretty much guarantee you that at the end of your day, you're going to regret. You have a lot of regrets.
I would agree. Once again, we don't know. Like this goes back to that. We've, in a weird way, we've had this conversation. This is now a new lens on it with the idea of soul in the game, but this really goes back to purpose. Purpose is soul in the game, right?
Like I said, this is ancient wisdom.
Right. And I've told you multiple times now, like sometimes purpose is a bad thing because it only puts you on one track. Everything else is tunnel vision at that point in time. Like, sometimes ignorance is bliss, sometimes it's nice to just be Steven Pinker and sit back and pick holes at other people with having no skin, not even skin in the game. Fuck soul in the game. He doesn't even have skin in the game, right? And you know what, to be fair, I'm not going to shit on Steven Pinker. I don't even know anything about his world. So I don't care. I'm just going off of what Nassim Taleb is saying, you know what I mean? So
right.
I don't care. I read his book. He seemed like an okay guy to me. Like I don't know anything about him other than the book that I read and what he does. But I'm just giving that example as an example of you can sit back from your lofty academia world, philosophize and say that this is how the world works and this is how everything's going to go. But like, I don't, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like sometimes that's nice. That can be very nice. It can be very cushy. It can be very, very nice.
The thing is always going to be wrong. Anybody tell you how to live your life is always going to be wrong.
I guess what I was getting at was sometimes purpose isn't all that it's cracked up to be. Sometimes soul in the game isn't all that it's cracked up to be. You can still have a fulfilling and rewarding life.
That's part of life. I mean, life is always, there's good and bad in every single thing. You have a soul, it's bad and it's good. You have a purpose, it's bad and good, right? It doesn't matter what you do. Everything is always has those. It's basically two faces of one coin. Right.
Yes.
So the thing is, that's just the reality of it.
It's fragile and anti-fragile. But
it has to have both. You cannot have fragile without anti-fragile. You cannot have matter without antimatter. It just doesn't work that way. You cannot have decomposer without composers.
Decomposers.
What are you going to decompose if no one to compose anything?
I feel like
balance is the key word of Klepany. Balance.
Yes. That's our beautiful question to go explore is can we help people to find and maintain balance of a meaningful life, a meaningful work, and meaningful relationship.
Their own balance, not my balance. I don't care about the average. I don't care about the median. I don't care about each individual one of us is unique and it has our own balance of scale.
Right.
You cannot take something and put it into math and say, well, in this world, right, it's going to follow this kind of environment that we project the rules and reasons to, and it shall obey. It doesn't obey. I mean, even the law of physics, right? The law of physics is not even like something we can manipulate, and it still violates it on its own, right? Because there's certain stars that spin in one direction, and there's certain planet reverse in the other reverse. Right? You explain to me why.
I don't know. Right? I mean, that's not my domain for soul.
What I'm saying is, there are a lot of things unexplainable.
Right.
We don't have the ability to grasp it from the all-knowing perspectives. So that means that in our life, it is individually, whatever your feedback. It is yours and yours alone. It cannot be said. Well, I can't tell you, okay, I drink this cup of coffee and I grow 2 inches. That doesn't work for anyone else.
Can you do
You
that?
can't say Steven Pinker, you shall be nice and nice guy finish last or whatever stupid stereotype that people throw at, right? It doesn't work. It never works. You just make a fool out of yourself.
You can't tell your team to go eat the frog and then literally go into the kitchen and pull out a nice slice of cake and sit there while you're just watching them work out in front of you, and you're like, yeah, eat the frog, everyone.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts that
you should have soul in the game.
You should.
In the game of life.
Soul in the game does make life more fulfilling.
My final say is play the game that you can put soul in the game too. If you cannot put a soul in goal, don't waste your time.
And just have fun.
Don't waste your time. Because you have to embrace and focus on your strengths. Don't focus on what you think you want. Back in the days, I wanted to be a quarterback. I don't have the physical trait for it. I have the mind for it, but I don't have a physical trait for it. I would be good at being a kicker, but I didn't follow that. I didn't spend the time I should have spent on doing things that I should have done. That is going to waste your time.
I think mine would be, don't ever listen to anyone for advice unless they have their soul in the game. Like, don't ever seek advice from somebody unless they have their soul in the game. Whether your soul in the game is or not is irrelevant, in my opinion. Don't ever listen to anybody with even an open mind.
When somebody doesn't have soul in the game and what they say, they have no credibility.
Zero. If they talk, just literally.
It's just hearsay. Without having the soul in the game, which is like your whole life is on the line. Then that person has no credibility.
You'll know when somebody has their soul in the game or whether they have skin in the game or whether they have nothing in the game. You'll know it immediately. So keep your elephant, detect that, and remind your rider to tell everybody to just walk away from anybody that doesn't meet those requirements. All right. Thanks everybody for joining.
You're talking about an elephant, the rider as one, not a rider that can jump off the elephant to another elephant at any time.
Right. Exactly. Good point. Yeah, they're tied at the hip. All right, everyone, have a good night, and we will see you all tomorrow. And Snow will be joining us tomorrow, so we'll have a snowstorm.
Good night.